We mailed them a cold email. This is one of the first cold emails campaigns I ever did. And it was only like 100 people. We used it to book a bunch of meetings and we made $32,000.
Bloody hell. Nice.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you a fist bump from across the internet.
That's great. Virtual fist bump. And it's really interesting to see that this continues to be a strategy to this day. How do you go out and connect with brand new audiences if you have no network, no database at all? It's a really common challenge, particularly for businesses that are just starting out. But also, as a business grows and enters new markets, identifies new opportunities, it's this constant struggle. How do I get to the right people? How do I get my foot in the door? Which is where cold email outreach comes in. Now, I, like you, have a love-hate relationship with cold email outreach. And that is because every now and then we're all on the receiving end of some poor, clumsy, irrelevant cold email outreach. But when it is done well, it is mwah. And right now, right here, I have with me Ryan Wardell, who is one of the few people I know on the planet that knows how to do cold outreach like mwah. Ryan, how are you?
James, good to see you, mate.
Good to see you too. Now, Ryan is the founder of Startup Source, Outreach Source, and also the preheating method, which is a really cool name. And we'll come back to that. But where did we meet? Mate, we've known each other for at least 10 years. Where did we first meet?
It's been a decade. Would it have been back in the Sydney startup scene, or you were in York Butter Factory down in Melbourne for a little while? It was Anthill. I think it was the first business that I started, and you guys kindly gave us some was that Project Power Up way back in the day. You gave us some press love, and I will always appreciate that, mate. Really, it really helped us out. So
well, that's cool. It's just so exciting when you know people from back in the day, and then you catch up again, and they're doing exciting, amazing things, and then continue to impress you with their skills. Now, also over the last 10 years, you've been traveling the world, living the life of the digital nomad. Where are you joining us from today?
I'm in Buenos Aires in Argentina, of all places. It's a long COVID-related story. There's a girl involved. I won't get into that today.
And that's the way you get into it. Now, I mentioned before that you're the founder of Startup Source and also the Outreach Source. But let me get this right. You were running a marketing agency that led to all this. What's your background story? How did you end up running Startup Source and Outreach Source?
So I was doing the digital nomad thing for a while, and I got sick of bumping around all over the place. So I ended up starting a marketing consultancy in London with a mate of mine over there. We were doing a lot of work with funded early stage tech companies in London. And so we had the same problem that I think every service business has, which is it was feast or famine. So we'd get really busy on project work, and then the projects would wrap up, and then we'd look around and oh crap, we've got no clients now. We're gonna have to scrabble around to go and get some more. And it was the most frustrating thing because you couldn't take any time off. We couldn't hire people because we had no predictable kind of revenue stream coming in. We couldn't kind of project all that out. So it took us a while, but we figured out how to do it with cold email. And so most agencies, it's pretty much all word of mouth and referrals. We were kind of different. So we had about half of our customers would come from cold email, and the other half would come from word of mouth and referrals, and a few partnerships we had along the way as well. But cold email was a really important growth driver for our business. It's also something we started doing for some clients as well with pretty good success. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the shortcuts that I wish someone else had been able to tell me all those years ago. But yeah.
Well, the story is such a familiar one. It's hunt, pitch, deliver, hunt, pitch, deliver, hunt, pitch, deliver, hunt, pitch, deliver. But when you get that source of recurring leads or recurring opportunities, as you say, life gets that little bit more predictable. And suddenly you can make informed decisions, you can recruit up, you can remove yourself from the business. Now, that would have brought you, you would have learnt your own strategy, and everybody seems to acquire their own strategy. I was having a conversation last week with a guy called Stepan. He's discovered that Twitter is his strategy for getting the leads. I was having a conversation with another guy called Tim. Tim's strategy is LinkedIn. Ryan's is cold email outreach. So let's get into that, because you have a bunch of slides for us, and perhaps let's start with just a little bit of terminology. What are we talking about? Let's start at the highest level.
I promise there won't be too much jargon in it today, but at a really high level, when people are talking about cold email outreach, or they're talking about outbound prospecting or sales development, it all means the same thing. Effectively, what we're doing is we're going out and we're identifying the kind of businesses that we want to work with. And then we're reaching out to them via email saying, hey, look, let's get on a call, or let's start some sort of a business relationship. Doesn't always have to be getting on a call, but generally that's the one most people will go for.
Yeah, the B2B, it's usually let's have a conversation. It's not buy something from me right now by clicking on this link, because that would feel like spam. It's more likely get them on a call.
Absolutely. So let me just jump in here. So the frustrating thing that I find often when I'm talking to people who they say, I've tried doing cold email before, it didn't work. And I said, okay, what did you do? Tell me exactly how you did it. And it looks something like this. So what they'll do is they'll write a cool email, and then they'll send it out, and maybe they'll write, 3 or 4 or 5 more and send them out. And then they'll wait a couple of days and nothing happens. And then they go, oh, cold email doesn't work. Done. It's done. It's had its time in the ton. It's over. And the problem is, if you're doing it like this, of course, it's not going to work. That might have worked 20 years ago. It doesn't work like that today. There is some more stuff that you need to do if you want your emails to land in the inbox rather than the spam folder, and especially if you want your cold emails to stand out enough to get a response. There's kind of 2 main problems with all this. One of them is that deliverability piece, and the other one is just people have short attention spans now, and cold email is a fairly low trust marketing channel, just because they don't know you from a bar of soap. They've never met you before. So you've got this little window of opportunity to grab their attention. And so if you're not really zeroed in on what you're doing with that piece there, then they've got 10 other cold emails in their inbox that day. They're going to click on a different email and respond to your competitor. So I'm going to talk about the right way to do this today. So we're going to cover 3 main things. The first is deliverability, and that's all the more technical stuff. I'm not a super technical guy, so I'm going to explain it in simple, plain English that everyone can latch onto. But deliverability, which means landing in the inbox rather than the spam folder. We're going to talk about relevance, which is how to build a laser-targeted email list so that you're getting in front of the right people. And the third piece, which is always crucial, is just getting that messaging part right. So how to write emails that people want to open, emails that people want to reply back to. Now, I wish I could take everything that I've learned about cold email over the last few years and condense it into 20, 30 minutes. I can't do that, unfortunately. So there is a whole bunch of other stuff that we're not going to have time to cover today. I do have a couple of resources at the end, though. So if you are interested in learning more about this stuff, you can check them out, and that'll take all the stuff to the next level. But the whole point today is I wanted to teach you enough to be dangerous. So by the end of this, you should have enough to be able to go out, put some cold emails together, get them into the inbox, get someone's attention, and start actually picking up some new clients or new customers from your efforts. So cold email has 4 main advantages. There's 4 things that I love about cold email. The first one is that it's fast. So a lot of people will say, I need to get my website looking a bit better, or, but I haven't optimized this funnel. I got to write this big long email sequence, or I need to get more case studies, or all that stuff helps. Don't get me wrong. All that stuff is great to have, but you don't need it. It's not a barrier to getting started. If you can just put some emails together, send them out, start having some sales conversations tomorrow, you can get moving a lot faster. Content is the other piece. A lot of people say I should be writing blog posts, or I should be creating YouTube videos, podcasts, all that kind of stuff. And again, all that stuff is fantastic. But even if you know what you're doing, even if you do everything the right way, it's still going to take realistically like 6 to 12 months for that all to kind of snowball and build up. So what do you do for the first 6 or 12 months of your business, right? So the second thing is that it's highly targeted. So I'm a big fan of inbound marketing, but one thing that outbound or cold email can do is that you can go out and you can find the kind of clients that you want to work with. They have the budget to be able to afford you. They have the need, the perfect fit clients. My old business partner used to call them the Dream 100. I'm sure he didn't invent it. I'm sure he got that from somewhere else.
We call them the Goldilocks zone.
The Goldilocks zone. That's perfect. I like that even more. So So if you've got the ability to go out and get the clients that you want to work with, that you're best able to help, then you avoid all those problems of dealing with difficult clients, or they can't afford you, or they're pushing back on price all the time. And it just makes life so much easier. The third thing is scalable, repeatable, predictable. All of that means is that once you get this machine working for you, and I send out a few hundred emails and I get 2 new clients, or I get 3 new clients, or I get 10 new clients. Once you've got it all working, you just need to add more email addresses into the top of the funnel, and you get more clients out the bottom of the funnel. It's a beautiful thing. So we're gonna start. I'm gonna show you how to do it at a very small kind of micro scale. That's what I recommend for most people, even if you've got a big budget, even if you want to move quickly, because once you prove out those metrics and it's all looks pretty profitable, then it's just a question of putting more prospects in the top of it. But the best thing about cold email by far is that it's cheap. It just doesn't cost a lot of money. And so it is possible to build this whole machine that I'm talking about. You can build the whole thing for less than $10 a month. If you want to use some tools, it's a little bit more expensive than that, obviously. But if you're doing this all manually, if you're just starting out, money's a bit tight, you don't have a huge marketing budget to spend, you certainly don't have a sales team or anything like that, this is what you can spend your money on. And you can send out 300 emails a month for less than $10. So you'll need a domain. So that's going to cost you $1 a month. You'll need Google Workspace or Microsoft 365 if you want to send out through Outlook. That's $5 or $6 a month there. And you will need a tool to clean the emails. So one that we recommend is called Zero Bounce, but it is 0.8 of a cent per email check.
0.08%.
Sorry, that's
0.00.
0.8 of a cent. Yes.
Yeah.
0.008 of a dollar. Yeah. Per email check. So all this stuff is really cheap. Now, if you want to get fancy, and I probably recommend you do, once you get to it's really time consuming to do it manually, but if you've got more time than money, do it manually to begin with. Once you're making a bit more cash, that's when you can bring in some software tools to help. So in terms of actually sending the emails out, there's 3 tools that we recommend. We've used all 3. The one that I'd probably steer people towards a little bit at the moment is Instantly. Probably just because it's a little bit cheaper and a little bit easier to use, but we've had good success using Lemlist and QuickMail as well. So these tools will schedule the emails for you, and kind of combine everything, so it's much easier to manage. You don't need to be physically sitting there typing out the emails or copying and pasting into Gmail and blasting them out. So that's going to save you an enormous amount of time. Once someone replies, so James, quick shout out to you, mate. So B2B-.io is going to help you with all the follow-ups and everything that happens after that initial reply. One of the biggest things that people say is like, hey, I've sent out this email and I got my first reply and it's great, and they've scheduled a meeting, and then they don't show up. So you're telling me before about all the countdowns that actually make sure that they're going to show up to the meeting in the first place.
Elevating anticipation before the meeting, one of the most important things you can do, because it breaks your heart when you put in all that effort to get that meeting and then they don't show up. Or they postpone and they reschedule, or they show up and they say, "What are we doing here again?" You don't want that.
And this is the thing, like if you've gone to all the effort of getting the meeting in the first place, it's annoying to fall over at the finish line. So definitely recommend using a tool like B2B Dash to handle that follow-up and booking meetings piece. And then if you want to get someone else to find the email addresses for you, you can do that fairly cheaply. So you can get it done for as little as 20 cents per email found. Just bear in mind, like anything, when you're using Upwork or Fiverr, you probably need to try out a bunch of people before you find someone who's actually pretty good at it. So just bear in mind.
You probably don't know this story, Ryan, but when I was running Anthill Magazine, I was doing a feature on intellectual property, on IP. And I thought we should reach out to all the intellectual property firms to see whether they want to advertise in this feature.
Yeah.
And this was possibly the first time I ever used Upwork, which was probably called Elance at the time.
Elance at the time, yeah.
Yep. And I spent $20, and someone gave me for a list of 100 decision makers within intellectual property firms within Australia, which was the demographic of the audience, and it was like $20, a list of 100. We mailed them a cold email. This is one of the first cold emails campaigns I ever did. And it was only like 100 people. We used it to book a bunch of meetings, and we made $32,000.
Bloody hell. Nice.
Yeah.
We give you a fist bump from across the internet.
That's great. Virtual fist bump. And it's really interesting to see that this continues to be a strategy to this day. I think that we obviously spent more than 20 cents an email, or was it exactly 20
No,
cents?
it's exactly
100 emails for $20. Oh, wow. There we go. It hasn't changed. But anyway, great value for money. No, we spent
Perfect.
$2 an email. No, 20 cents an email. Anyway, my maths brain is not very good.
So if you were to send out, say, 300 emails, and that's probably the minimum that you'd want to send to get some responses. Quite often people will send out 5 or 10 and go, oh, cold email doesn't work. And ultimately, it is a bit of a numbers game. So you send out 100 emails, you were able to get some good responses from that. If you'd only sent out 5 or 6, though, you probably just wouldn't have. So I think there is a minimum that you need to send out. So I'd say at least 100 is probably the minimum. I like 300, as that's basically 10 emails a day for a month, if you think about 30 days in a month. So if you're doing all this manually, yeah, $9.40 in total is what it's going to cost you. That's your marketing spend for the month. If you pick up a couple of clients from that, you're laughing. If you're using some more automated tools, you can get it done for as little as just over $100, or a little bit more than that, depending on what exact tools you're using and how many leads you're getting and all that kind of stuff. But again, it's not expensive. If you spend $100 or $200 on Facebook ads or on Google ads, you're going to get a few clicks, and that's probably the extent of it, unless you really know what you're doing. But again, most businesses, even at a really small scale, can afford to spend a few $100 on marketing each month if it means they're going to get a couple of clients. So let's jump in. So we're going to talk about deliverability first. So coming back to this, the main reason why this doesn't work anymore is because if this is all you're doing, you write a cool email, you send it out and hope for the best, and then of course nothing happens. It's because you're landing in the spam folder. And the reason for that is that the business email, business communications in general, is pretty much owned by 2 companies at this point. So you've got Google, or Alphabet, I think they're called now, and which owns Google Workspace, and you've got Microsoft, which owns Outlook, and also LinkedIn. Not a lot of people realize that Microsoft owns LinkedIn these days, and so they've been making it harder and harder and harder to land in the inbox for the last few years. They've been really clamping down on spam, which is a good thing, to be honest. So what we're doing is not spam. What we're doing is useful, helpful emails that are laser targeted and
relevant to our target audience, because we know who our target audience is, and we're not just sending it to anyone willy-nilly.
Exactly. It's the difference between using a sniper rifle and a machine gun is we're not taking the spray and pray approach here. So what happens is they send these emails out and they land in the spam folder. They don't even realize it, and they think, oh, this isn't working, but it just means that it's gone to the spam folder. And the annoying thing about that is it doesn't matter how good your email is. It doesn't matter if you spent 6 hours writing the world's best email. If it lands in the spam folder, no one's ever going to see it, and it's dead in the water. So there's 4 things that you need to do to maximize your deliverability straight out of the gates. So the first one is you need to use a secondary domain. So for example, one of the businesses that I run, outreachsource.com, I don't send emails from Ryan at outreachsource.com. We have tryoutreachsource.com. We have outreachsource.co. So it's like the branding is very, very similar, and that's important, but it is ultimately a different domain name that you're using, and you just use that for cold email. Then we're going to set up on, I'll tell you why in a moment, but then we're going to set it up on Google Workspace or Microsoft 365, so we can send the emails out via Gmail or via Outlook. It's important that we use those because you're gonna have more trust. Then you need to set up SPF, DKIM, and DMARC. And if you've never heard those before, don't worry, don't freak out. It's just a bit of copying and pasting. That's all you need to do. It's really not that difficult, but there is a bit of jargon involved. And then the final thing that you need to do is to warm up your domain, and I'll tell you what that is in just a second. So coming back to the secondary domains for a moment. So the main problem with cold emails is that there's always a risk that you'll get marked as spam. So if I sent an email out from Ryan at outreachsource.com, and enough people said, hit the report spam button, then all the emails that I start sending out. So you imagine I'm sending out invoices to clients, or I'm sending out like transactional emails to customers, and they go straight in the spam folder. That is going to wreck your business. You can recover from it, but it's going to take you months and months and months. And it's generally easy to just rebrand and come up with, and you don't have to come up with a new logo and a new domain name and all that kind of stuff. So before you create more dramas for yourself, best thing to do is just set up a secondary domain, and you're just going to use that to send the cold emails out. Don't ever send cold emails out from your main domain. So if you think of this as a bit of we're keeping it at arm's length, this is a bit of a safety valve for us. So worst case scenario, this secondary domain gets marked as spam too many times. Cool. Load up a new one, continue on. It doesn't affect the rest of your business. The reason why we want to set up and send the emails out through either Gmail or through Outlook using Google Workspace or Microsoft 365 is because you've got a thing called a sender reputation. So if you've done some Facebook ads or Google ads, there's a quality score with your Google ads or an ad relevance score with Facebook ads. So basically they reward people who do a good job and send useful, helpful emails, and they punish people that are spammers. So if an email is starting off on Google or Outlook, it's going to start with a higher reputation by default, which means that you're going to get better deliverability straight out of the gates just because you're sending it through those services. And again, it's not expensive. It's $5 or $6 a month per domain. For SPF, DKIM, and DMARC, so it stands for all this stuff here: center policy, framework, domain keys. Anyway, there's a quiz at the. I'm kidding. There won't be a quiz at the end. I'm not. This stuff is not important at all.
DMARC sounds like a fashion brand. Don't they sound like fashion brands? DKIM, DMARC, SPF.
SPF sounds like a health fund, I think, but yeah, it does. But anyway, so you can Google. There are some videos, there's some tutorials, there's all sorts of stuff. What we found is that a lot of our clients would stumble when they got to this step. So we've created a free, simple, plain English, step-by-step tech setup guide that can walk you through the whole thing. So if you head over to preheatingmethod.com/tech setup guide, you can download that and just walk you through it all. But there are a whole bunch of other materials and stuff out there. It's just we found them a little bit more technical.
It's really just logging into your Outlook or Gmail and copying and pasting some fields, isn't it? But
and then you go where
it's complicated. You only have to ever do it once until you change your domain or whatever. But if you don't have that guide, it can be fiddly. So preheatingmethod.com/tech setup guide, and we'll have a link underneath this recording.
Fantastic. So we've got all that stuff set up now. The next step is to warm up your secondary domain. And what we're talking about warming up is we're using email the way humans do. So if you think about it, a human would never register a new domain and then on day 2, blast out 10,000 emails. That just would never happen. So normally what people do is they set up a new domain and they might send a few emails out, and then they'll start receiving a few, and then they start sending out a few more as their business grows. So that's what we're trying to emulate here. Now, there are some software tools that can do it. A lot of the tools that I mentioned before have an email warm-up function kind of built in. Instantly definitely does, so you can use that. But it's always better to do some manual warm-up as well. So what that means is you've got your new domain, your secondary domain that you're going to send emails out from. You've set up your email address that you're going to send those emails from. So you want to sign up to a few email lists around the place, your favorite bloggers, your favorite content sites, whatever. So you're receiving a few emails. Then you want to send out a few emails a day to friends, family, co-workers, anyone else, and just get them. This is the key part. You want them to reply, and if that email ends up in the spam folder, get them to drag it back into the inbox and then reply from there. And so what they're doing is they're training Google and Microsoft to see, no, this isn't spam. This is a real email from someone that I know and I trust. And so you want to ramp that volume up. So generally people ask, how long do I need to warm up for? So 4 weeks is generally the optimal time to do it. You can get away with a little bit less than that if you're really desperate. But look, if we've spent all this time and effort trying to get to this point, just give it an extra few weeks. So we'll give it 4 weeks to warm up and gradually ramp up the volume that you're sending out per day. Until about the 4-week mark, you should be able to safely send out about 50 emails a day if you've done everything right up until this point. So that brings us to the next thing, which is relevant. So we're really talking about getting in front of the right people at the right time. So who do we want to target here? And look, this is marketing 101. This is super basic. This is coming up with a customer persona, or people call it an ICP, an ideal customer profile. But you'd be amazed how many times people just kind of don't quite take the time to go into this deeply enough. So how big are the companies that you want to target in terms of revenue or employees? Which industry, which sector, which niche are they in? Who is the decision maker at these companies? And what kind of problems or pain points do they have? What kind of language do they use? How do they like to be spoken to? All these things are really important. So really take the time to dive deep into this. A lot of people say, well, I don't know who the decision maker is. So a good rule of thumb is to always start at the top. And I know that might sound a little bit counterintuitive, because maybe you think, look, the CEO or the business owner, they're really busy, or I'm going to get the secretary or the gatekeeper, and I'm never going to hear them. So the problem is, let's say if you're reaching out to marketing directors, that's your ideal client. That's the kind of person that is the decision maker that you're going to go to. If you cold email out to a marketing director, they get your email and they're a bit busy that day, they can ignore it. Nobody else is going to know. They're not going to get in trouble. Nothing's going to happen. They're not going to lose their job. Life continues on. But if you email the CEO and the CEO forwards it on to the marketing director and says, hey, Steve, come and check this out. We should do this. Steve has to get back to you now because the CEO told him to do it. So that's why it's often better to start off at the top and then work your way down to the next layer and then maybe work your way down to the next layer after that. You don't want to email multiple people within the same company at the same time because then it looks like you've just bombarded the whole company. But email the CEO, give it a week or two, then email the next step down, give it a week or two, email the next step down after that. And that's probably when you've done enough and you can move on to the next one. But you want to avoid as much as possible. You want to send it to a real person's email address, not info at, hello at, team at, sales at, all that kind of stuff. Generally, if they've got a contact form on their website, that's generally a bad sign too, because it's just going to go straight through to the inbound sales team. And that's generally not the decision maker you want to talk to. So try and find a person, get their email address and start from the top and work your way down. The other key pro tip here is don't try selling to people who don't have any money. Quite often, I've made this mistake too. I tried selling to really small business owners, and yes, we can definitely help them, but no, they don't have the budget to be able to afford me. So instead of getting in this difficult situation where they're breathing down your neck for results all the time, try and work with businesses that definitely have enough money to be able to buy your services and afford you without it getting to be a source of tension.
We call them PWMs. It stands for players with money. and the reality is there's like a bunch of metrics that you want to do. You want to know that they have money. You want to know that they're in a position to make a decision. You want to know that they can make decisions reasonably quickly. It's great if you've got experience with that industry or type of person in the past. That helps as well too. And finally, don't pick industries that you don't like working with those types of people. I've seen that before. They've got the money, they're quick to make a decision. I've got some experience, but then I can't stand working with people in that industry, so you got to factor that one in as well too.
Absolutely. It's one of those counterintuitive things where you think like, we can definitely help this person the most, but the smaller they are, generally the more work and the more effort they are to deal with as clients as well. So yeah. So when it comes to building your list, there's really 4 ways you can do it. So you can buy a list to begin with. Generally don't recommend that. If you've got other options, sometimes you don't, and that's just what you have to do. The second option is to scrape a list. Again, a little bit technical. You can hire someone on Fiverr or Upwork to do it for you, or you can, use some software tools, or if you do have the technical skills, you can do that yourself. But generally, if you scrape a list using software, so that's just literally, using software to go through and do some glorified copying and pasting. But it will grab some of the information, but I've never seen a scraping tool that will grab all the information that you need. So there's still a human layer involved after that needs to go through and, clean it all up. So your third option, which is probably what you're going to start off doing, is putting the list together yourself. I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. But what you probably want to do, this is one of those things that can be quite time consuming to do it well. And there are lots of other people that can do it relatively cheaply as well. So pretty quickly, you want to kind of graduate to step 4, which is where you pay someone else to put these lists together for you. But if you are on a bit of a tight budget, you can certainly do it yourself. There's a few tools that I'd recommend for that. So we've got a few here. So SalesQL, Adapt, Scrap, Uplead, Hunter.io, Snovio. I've tried every tool under the sun. And the one that I keep on coming back to on this list is SalesQL. So there's a free Chrome extension. By the way, I shouldn't recommend this, but if you are on a really tight budget, and we've all been there, most of these tools have a certain amount of free credits every month. So you can literally sign up to all of them and just abuse the free credits. It's not the best way to do it, and they'll all give you slightly different results and stuff as well. Some are more accurate than others. The one that I've found to be the best kind of balance of cost and accuracy is SalesQL. So even after you've used up the free credits, it's still not particularly expensive and it seems to be a bit more accurate than most of the other tools that I've tried. So that's the one that I'd lean towards. It is a little bit more.
I'm going to add one more to your list. I used Snovio or Snov.io as well too. I thought that was pretty cool. But if your target audience is on LinkedIn and you're using LinkedIn as a business development tool, and perhaps even embracing automation tools which engage with your first degree connections on LinkedIn, there's one called We-Connect, And that also can be used to collect the email addresses of people by a specific industry if your target audience is on LinkedIn. So I've been using that one. Pretty cool.
We Connect. I'm going to add that to the list. That sounds awesome.
Connect. But we mainly use it because we're also using it for other purposes on LinkedIn.
That makes a lot of sense. Fantastic. Well, there'll be 7 on the list pretty soon. Awesome. Alrighty. So this is what all that looks like. So generally, to use any of these tools, you will need a LinkedIn Sales Navigator account. So I didn't factor that into the cost. I probably should have, but assuming you've got one of those set up anyway. So this is what it all kind of looks like. So let's say, for argument's sake, you go to Bill Gates on LinkedIn, you go to his profile. All you need to do is literally go up and click on the Chrome extension at the top, and it will do its magic thing, find Bill's email address. You've generally got a few options there, so you can just copy and paste that, stick it into a Google sheet. So you got the name, you got the company name, and you got Bill's email address. Hey presto, we've got an email list ready to go through, rinse and repeat that a few hundred times, and hey, we've got our email list now. That's kind of half the battle, so we've got that piece done now. That's literally all that's involved. If you hire other people to do this for you, they'll generally use their own tools. I'd feel a bit reluctant to hand over the login details to a software tool to someone on Upwork, because they're just going to abuse all the credits in there. So word of advice there, I probably would just make sure that they use their own tools. But anyway, so you've got your spreadsheet, you've got a list of emails, you've got name, company name, any other information that you want to reference in there. The next step that everyone seems to skip over is cleaning the email list. So you can't just send out the way it is there, because there's going to be some stuff in there. So some of those email addresses are going to be incorrect. No matter which tool you use, some of those results just not quite, they're kind of best guesses, not 100%. Some of those email addresses were correct at some point in the past, but they're old or they're out of date, or that person has moved on and they're no longer working at that company, whatever it is. But the ones you really got to watch out for are the honeypot or the spam trap email addresses. So all the spam services in the world that are responsible for detecting which emails and which domains are spammers, and then they sell that information to Google and Microsoft. The way they work is they go and they deliberately set up email addresses to catch out spammers, and then they go and seed those email addresses in places where they know that they're selling the email list data. So they know, you sent an email to this address. Well, therefore you must have bought it from that place, and therefore you're spamming, and therefore caught you. So you want to use a list cleaning tool, which is a bit of software. Again, there's a few options that you've got. Zero Bounce and Never Bounce are the two that I tend to recommend. We use Zero Bounce, but I've heard great things about Never Bounce too. There is a slightly cheaper option in the Checker, but it hasn't been as accurate in my experience. So take that with a grain of salt. Generally, I'd probably steer people towards Zero Bounce or Never Bounce, because it's so cheap anyway.
It's actually worthwhile being aware of these tools, everyone, from a list hygiene perspective anyway. If you do any form of email marketing, it's worthwhile putting your email list into some of these tools every now and then, and just discovering, whether you could quite possibly delete emails from your database, or whether you've got any of those spam traps or honey trap emails already.
Absolutely. And if you want to get really, really narky about it, you can run it through one and then give it a second pass through, again, a different tool if you really want to be on the safe side. But generally once is enough. But the point about this is not an optional step. A lot of people will look at this guy, I can skip it. I'm pretty sure it's accurate. Every time I've done that myself, I've been burnt. So no, Ryan, go back, do it the right way. You know what you need to do. So you do need to clean your email list before you send it out. So that brings us to the really sexy part, which is the messaging. So how do we write emails that people want to respond to? This might this might be a bit difficult if we're doing it on a podcast or you're only listening to the audio.
If you're only
so I won't read the whole email out, but I'll give a bit of an overview. So we all get spammy cold emails. This one is not terrible. It's probably a 4 or 5 out of 10. It's not great, but it's not terrible. He did some things pretty well. The major mistake that he made, though, is that it landed in the spam folder to begin with. So he clearly skipped over all the other stuff that we just spoke about. But assuming that it didn't land in the spam folder, assuming it landed in the inbox. So he starts off and he goes, "Hi, hope you're doing great. I was surfing through your business and realized it's great design. We do this. I do this. I'd love to talk to you. We can help you do this." It's all about him. And he's got all his different services listed here. We're a team of 100 plus professionals. We work with 400 plus SEO projects. And then he ends it with, "Note, please share your contact details Skype it or phone number, and let us know your convenient time for the call/call, so our seniors can contact you directly for further discussion. What sort of call to action is that? That's terrible. So for Randolph's sake, sorry, Randolph. We're gonna rewrite this in a moment. We'll talk about subject lines, and then we'll talk about the actual email itself. So at a really high level, if we're talking about open rate versus reply rate, the two main metrics you want to keep an eye on with cold email. So your open rate is really what percentage of people open my email. And the main thing that's going to determine that, assuming you've done it, your deliverability is good, you've got a relevant email list. The main thing that's going to decide how many people are opening your email is the subject line. So some good numbers to aim for here. So anything over 30% is acceptable. If it's less than 30%, you've done screwed up. Go back and figure out your targeting. Go back and figure out your technical setup stuff. So anything less than 30%, it's going to do you more harm than good, because that's kind of the threshold where you start getting marked as a bit dodgy, and you're going to end up in the spam folder a lot. So if you're getting emails below 30%, stop, go back and fix things up. What you realistically want to aim for, though, long term, is probably somewhere between 60 and 80%. We've had a few clients getting above 90%. Admittedly, that's after kind of 5-6 months of testing and iteration, so you can definitely do that. But 60 to 80% is a pretty good place to be long term. So that's what you should be aiming for in terms of open rate. In terms of reply rate, that's what percentage of people actually replied or responded to my email. That's going to be somewhere between 1 to 10% is acceptable. A real kind of superstar reply rate is anything above 10%. We have had a couple of clients get up to 25, even 30% before, but again, that's very compelling, very good offer, lots of testing and all that stuff that goes into it. But if you're getting kind of anything above 30% in terms of open rate, and anything sort of 1 to 10% in terms of reply rate, that's not too bad. Obviously that can be improved, but that's enough to kind of continue on with what you're doing and try and improve it from there. So a good subject line, we're talking about open rates, good subject line does 3 things. Number 1, it arouses curiosity. It gets them curious about, what is this? I'm not quite sure. Maybe I need to open this up and see what it's all about. The second thing, excuse me, second thing is it makes you feel human. It feels human. It doesn't feel like, like a generic marketing message. And we're pretty attuned to that now. Most people can kind of spot that a mile off, and we've got our shields up and we see that. So something that feels like it's sent from a friend or a coworker or someone that you trust is going to sneak in under the radar a little bit better. And the third thing is that a good subject line is personalized. You've actually taken the time to do a bit of research about that person or that company, just to show that you're not just writing the same message, blasting it out to tens of thousands of people. So here's a few subject lines that you could try. I do have a list. So, but here are kind of the top sort of 3 or 4. So first name, quick question. Quick question is the classic. But if you can work their first name or the company name in there, that's even better.
The funny thing is, there are people looking at this and they might go, oh, that's a little bit cliche. There are reasons for cliches, and the reasons that they exist is because they work.
Absolutely. I think, like, in my experience, that's like a solid sort of 50-55% open rate. It doesn't matter. Like, we've tried it in lots of different industries, lots of different target markets, lots of different things. It still seemed to come back around that sort of 50 to 60% mark, which is great. Like, that's perfect. Why reinvent the wheel when you can just start off with something that works? There's a few others that have worked pretty well. So free for a coffee next Tuesday. That's great. Even if you're in a completely different city to them, it doesn't matter. You don't need to have any intention of actually meeting up for a coffee. Virtual coffees are good too. Do you need this value proposition at company name, or even just hey Steve, hey Jill, hey Sarah, or even like hi from Ryan, hi from James. That works well. If you can mention like a recent event or something else that would have popped up, that's pretty good too. It's a little bit situational, that one, but certainly any of these are going to be good, solid 50-60% open rates. You might as well start with something like this.
So this last one, there's a big popular trade show in your capital city, and everybody in your specific industry goes to the trade show. You could probably use one of Ryan's suggested resources, such as a human on Upwork, or maybe do a deal with the sponsorship organizers to get access to that list. And then you say, did you go to the recent event? And they go, no, I was meaning to, or I didn't.
It's a great conversation starter, because you're immediately like, we're in the same space, we know the same people, you can probably trust me. It really helps build a bit of rapport before you even get on the call with them. We do have, so just to avoid reinventing the wheel, so we've sent out hundreds of thousands of cold emails over the last few years. We've got a few subject lines that we keep coming back to over and over again. We've got a pretty big list, actually. So we've got 87 of them. So if you want, you can get access to that list of subject lines for free. If you're not confident in your writing skills, instead of spending hours poring over which subject line to use. So if you go to preheatingmethod.com/subject lines, all one word, you can get access to that list of 87 subject lines for free. It'll help you speed things up.
Once again, we'll link it underneath the recording. So get your tech setup guide, get your subject lines.
We're halfway there already. So there's a couple of, I had a mentor once who told me to always think of the subject line as writing an ad. So if you're writing ad copy, you really don't have much space at all. So you're not trying to sell them in the ad necessarily. All you're trying to do is to get them to click through to the landing page, or to go to the next step, or to watch a video, to do something else where you've got a bit more time and space to really sell them. So you're not trying to inform or educate or persuade in the subject line. You're just trying to get them curious enough to click it and read what you have to say. So don't overthink the subject line too much here. There is another tool that you can use. So emailsubjectlinegrader.com is an awesome free tool. Take it with a grain of salt. So I've used very long subject lines. Emailsubjectlinegrader.com doesn't seem to like long subject lines for whatever reason. So it's not 100%, but if you're not sure, run it through Email Subject Line Grader and see what it comes out with. It'll give you a bit of feedback. So let's move on to the, did you want to jump in, James? Or
no, I was quickly just writing a note. Emailsubjectlinegrader.com. I sent out an email this morning with a really long email headline, and like you, I shouldn't normally do it this long, but I want to do it. And I've got long ones. I'll tell you one of my favorite ones, Ryan, is you have the name, Ryan.
Yep.
And then you say, I was thinking about you, or I've been thinking about you. And people go, why were they thinking about me? And that's quite long when you see that on the page. But today I did a long one and it tanked. So I'm going to put it in Email Subject Grader and find out if there's other reasons other than it's long. But anyway, let's get into the email, because we saw an example of a terrible email a moment ago. And I think we're going to transform it into a sexy email. Let's say. So
let's talk about what a good email does. So a good email really does three things. So the first thing that it does is it focuses on them and solving their specific problems. The classic mistake that people make is they just talk about themselves the whole time. Nobody gives a stuff about you. Talk about the other person. Talk about how you're going to, help them, how you're going to make their life better or easier. Second thing a good email does is that it's generally fairly short. Again, the thing with cold email is that it is a fairly low trust medium. They don't know you. They've never seen you. They got an email from a stranger on the internet. So you've got a very small window of their attention to grab it and give them something that they can latch onto. So don't waste time or don't waste words on kind of fluff here. Just get straight to the point. This is a bit of a cultural thing. So I found Americans generally don't struggle just getting straight into it. But a lot of Europeans, even some of us Aussies, sometimes just, hey, hope you had a nice day. Listen, just came across your website, and no, get straight to the point. Tell me how you're going to make my life better. The final thing that a really good email does is it has a clear call to action. And like you saw in that example before, and I'll show you that. We'll loop back there. It absolutely kills me when everything is done. You've got a killer, great email, and then you get to the very end, and it's like, well, let me know if that's interesting. It's like, I don't know what to do next. So again, it's falling over at the finish line if you don't have a clear call to action. So this is that email that we went through before. The mistakes that he's made is just we. It's all about him and the services that he offers and how big his team is and how many projects they've handled and all this stuff. I'm like, I don't care. He hasn't even really mentioned my company name. He hasn't even used my first name. Okay. So immediately I'm looking this thinking, this guy hasn't taken 5 minutes to figure out who I am and what I do. He's got no trust in here. He's got a really weak call to action at the end. Please share your contact details. Let us know your convenient time for the call/call. I don't even know what that is. And he's kind of diverting everyone's attention by covering, here are all the things that we could possibly do, rather than saying, hey, here's the thing that we think you could best use that would be most helpful to you. Hasn't taken the time to really think about me and my needs. And that's part of the problem here. So I'm going to give you a simple framework that we call the 4-sentence initial email. And you can get really fancy with this stuff. We've got a lot more templates. We'll talk about that in a second. But as a starting point for your initial email, this is a really good framework to start out with. So the 4-sentence initial email, if you think about it, there are 4 key questions that you need to answer whenever you first start off. So the first question is, who are you? And in brackets, why should I care? The second question you need to answer is, what are you going to do to make my life better or easier? The third question you've got to answer is, why should I trust you? And the fourth one is, what do I do next? And if you can answer all of these questions, ideally in kind of like 1, maybe 2 lines each, that's going to give you a really rock solid structure. It's concise, it's to the point, and it covers all your bases. So this is something we recommend most of the time to start out with. It's something that we use most of the time when we start out. And then we get fancy from there and we test things and we try and improve it from there. But this is a pretty rock solid framework to begin with. So what we've done is we've taken this old email from Randolph before. And again, I apologize if it's audio only.
Sorry, Randolph. Probably, I'm apologizing to Randolph, but maybe he deserves it.
I probably should have covered up his actual company name, but bugger it. He spammed me and he sent me a crappy email. Name and shame, I say. So I've rewritten Randolph's email according to this 4-sentence initial email kind of format. So I'll read it out if we've got time to do that. So I'll say, so the subject line is idea for company name. That's one of the subject lines on the 87 subject line email list. So go check that out. Idea for company name. We found that to be that arouses curiosity. It makes people interested, makes them want to click it. It's also not super marketing-y, so it slides under the radar a little bit too. So, hey Ryan, love the design of your website. Stick a link to their website in here. But it seems that you're not getting as much search traffic as you should be. My name's Randolph, and I run an award-winning SEO agency called SearchRank Now, I think was the name of his company. We specialize in helping startups like Startup Source, my company, get more customers by improving your Google search rankings. Companies like Invoiceberry, Shopify, and Airbnb have all used our services to get more traffic from Google and generate more revenue. Would love to learn more about your goals for 2023 and discuss how we could help you get there a bit faster. Are you free for a quick call next Tuesday or Wednesday? And then we've got his signature at the bottom. Cheers. Now see how in not a lot of space, there's no fluff in there. Like this bit here, we've given them a compliment at the start. This is optional, but I found that it does help to sort of personalize the first line. Some people call it an icebreaker, or at least give them a nice compliment. But this is who I am and why you should care. This is how I'm going to make your life better or easier. This is why you should trust me. And this is what happens next. And see if you put it all in that format straight away, and someone can look at this and go, yeah, okay, fair enough. I want to get on a call with this guy. Bit of a pro tip here when it comes to the call to action. So we've tested a lot of these. The one that we keep coming back to is, are you free for a quick call? Actually, no, I take that back. Are you up for a quick call next Tuesday or Wednesday? Free is a spam keyword. It trips up a lot of spam triggers. So we found that out. So are you up for a quick call next Tuesday or Wednesday is what I should change it to. The reason why that works, first of all, it's a question. Question begs an answer. So if you ask someone a question, they feel like they need to respond. And if you say next week, you've given them 2 options, Tuesday or Wednesday, not on Monday when it's super busy. Most people haven't planned out next week, but this week is already pretty jammed. So this way it's kind of close enough that they could look at it and agree to something, but far enough away that they've probably got plenty of free time as well. So that's the 4-sentence initial email in action. So that's kind of the end of this. So we did cover kind of everything. But like I said, this is enough for you to be dangerous. It's not the complete package, but it's enough for you to start putting some cold email campaigns together, blasting them out, hopefully getting a few more clients. And then if you want to go take it to the next level, we'll talk about that in a second. But if you want to get in touch with me, so a couple of ways you can do that. Best way is LinkedIn. So linkedin.com/in/Ryan Wardell is my name. I've just started a YouTube channel. There's not a huge amount of stuff up there yet. There's a couple of interesting talks and videos and stuff like that, but we're planning on really rolling that stuff out in next year. So that should be pretty exciting. And I'm not going to give you my email address because I've spent like 10 minutes telling you how to find email addresses. Go find my email address. And if you can find my email address, drop me a message and I'll say, hey, I'm impressed. Thank you for doing that.
Mission accepted.
It's stupidly easy to find me on the internet. So that's not too difficult. So again, a couple of free resources to help you out, and then one paid one. So the first free resource is that step-by-step tech setup guide we spoke about, preheatingmethod.com/tech setup guide. The second free resource is that list of 87 proven email subject lines that we've used ourselves to get really good results. So that's preheatingmethod.com/subject lines. And then if you're curious about all the stuff we didn't have time to cover today, maybe some more of the advanced tactics using video, how to do A/B testing and personalization at scale, how to deal with like the legal frameworks of CAN, spam, and GDPR, some of those spam trigger keywords that we touched on before. If you want to know how to do all this stuff and you just want to hit the ground running to begin with, we do have a course on how to do cold email effectively. It's built around a methodology called the preheating method. So we didn't touch on preheating today. That's a more advanced tactic, but we do cover it in the course. So if you head over to preheatingmethod.com, I do have a discount code for you. So that discount code is vertical, VERTICAL 23, or one word, vertical 23. The course is normally $147. You can get it for $97. So you save yourself a bit of money there. But yeah, and we'll cover everything in a lot more detail, as well as a lot more of the advanced tactics and everything that you need to really win at cold email. And once, like I said, the analogy that my business partners used to always use is it's like seeing the matrix. So that the end of the matrix, you see all the green ones and zeros, Neo sees it all at the end. My old business partner used to say, once you figure out how to do cold email, you never have to worry about where your next client is coming from. You've got everything you need. As long as you've got a laptop and an internet connection, you can go out and get the next client. Anytime you need more money, it's right there for the taking. So,
and I need to give this a plug, right? I'm just going to say this. This training is normally $147. Ryan's making it available for $97. Now, this is chump change. Like, if you really put this in perspective and you think about how much is one client worth to you, or you think about how more efficient you are likely to be if you can reach out to 300 people simultaneously, or even how much faster you are going to get a result if you've got someone holding your hands and showing you the steps, one small step at a time, because there are little things. It's the fiddly bits. It's the fiddly bits that are going to undo you. And if you can work through those steps for $97, and I said chump change before, and that is because there are all sorts of other idiotic ways that we spend our money all the time. The other day, Ryan, I bought a $5 donut. The thing is, I didn't know it was a $5 donut, so I bought half a dozen $5 donuts. So that there was $30 in donuts. So quite literally, I don't know, I could either buy, I don't know, what's that? It's I could buy 18 donuts, 20 donuts, or I could do your course. And, we go out with the boys or we go out with the girls and we say, this round's on me. And we buy 5 cocktails, $20 a cocktail. Glug, 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 down the hatch it goes. Whereas this is something that we can invest in ourselves, invest in our business, and move things forward. Do you mind if I share some of my standouts for this now?
Please do. Yes, absolutely.
Right, one. So the deliverability piece I found really, really fascinating. I'd also never, ever considered running my lists through Neverbounce or Unbounce or one of those tools. And as Ryan said, it's a step that you do not want to miss. When you engage in a strategy like this, there's always a technical component. And a lot of people just run away at that moment. They go, technology, and they run away. But technology is a beautiful thing. It's designed to make your life go so much faster. Like a steam train, a beautiful piece of machinery that gets people from one side of the country to the other. However, you can have a steam train, that's going to get you really far. But if you don't have the tracks, it's a big, expensive piece of metal. So then Ryan moved on to the relevance and the messaging. And we are saying in our business, the 3 Ps: one person, one problem, one product. So if you've got a clear target audience, you could say, this is my person, and where am I going to find them, and where am I going to build my list? The next piece is one problem. What's one problem that they all share? Then one product is going to be, hey, whatever the call to action is. You are the product. The meeting is going to be a product, or you can frame it in some way that's of high perceived value to those people. There are 2 of my 3 big take-homes. The third big take-home, guys and gals, ladies and gentlemen, is the final email that Ryan showed you. Although there was a process with 4 key points that were answered, it was not being silly or clever or overly dramatic. There is a time where you can get to that point where you can be clever and silly and overly dramatic, and you're going to get results. But I see this again and again and again. People they want their email to be outstanding and different and stand out. But what Ryan said was, Just say what you need to say. Don't overcook it. And the right people who are at the right stage in their business with the right challenges that you solve are the ones that are going to get back to you. Done. Any final words of wisdom, Ryan, before we wind up?
That's pretty much it. I think you nailed it. I think you said it better than I did, mate.
No. No, well, I want to say thank you because I know a lot about this stuff. But however, we went even further and deeper, and I acquired a whole bunch of tips. And it's also just really good, as I said at the beginning, to be hanging out with people that are doing amazing things I've known for a really long time. So thank you for sharing your insights today, Ryan.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure, mate. It's good catching up.